Francoise, can you hear me? No? Okay. Jane, welcome, Jane.
Yeah, David.
Okay,
Thank you, David.
Okay, welcome. Right, that's better. That's better, Jane. We can see you. We can see you now. And who else haven't I said hello to here? Christina. Welcome, Christina. And Lindsay, I know, was here earlier. Okay. Who else do we have? Eric Lynn. Welcome, Eric.
Hello, David.
I think I'm going to be sitting here for 10 minutes just welcoming people. I say, when we've got a large number like this, it's going to be difficult to have a conversation as such. But once we get started and we get into our breakout rooms, hopefully it'll be a lot easier. So, Rob, welcome back. Are you there? While you're here now, just a few words about Zoom, because I know for a few of you this is your first time. I sent some instructions, but if you move your mouse down to the, over the video window, the menu at the bottom of the screen will pop up, and if you click the participants button, a side panel will pop up, and you will be able to see all the participants. And if you click the chat button, you will get a second panel, which is a text chat panel. And hopefully those two panels are reasonably intuitive, but you'll see that you've got the ability there to mute and unmute your microphones. You will also see that you've got a virtual hand capability. You can put your hand up to get my attention. Those are probably the two main features there. Also, I have got the ability to mute all of you. So if at times there's a lot of background noise, I might just mute everybody. So when you do come to speak, just remember to unmute your microphone. The other thing to notice is if you move your mouse to the top right-hand corner of the video screen, you got a little toggle switch between speaker view and gallery view. And so if you're in speaker view, you get just to see the speaker and a few others. If you're in gallery view, you get to see everybody. So while I was talking there, we've had a few more people join us. Welcome Philip, and welcome Emma, and welcome Marianne.
Thank you.
So we're up to 31 people now. I guess that's not a bad number.
David, are you recording?
I am recording indeed, yes. You should be able to see a recording indicator on the screen to indicate that I'm recording. Has anybody got, just while we're waiting for this next 5 minutes or so, has anybody got any questions on how to use Zoom or what we're about to experiment with? Everyone happy so far? Good. I mean, this technology is really quite amazing. I never ever thought in all my dreams that we'd be able to do this, but it's looking good. And so who else do we have here? No, okay.
David, what happens when more and more people join? We just get smaller and smaller little boxes
I suspect so, and then we disappear. We disappear into sort of
I don't think
infinity.
I've been above this number before. In fact, I haven't been at this number before. So
To be honest with you, I'm not too sure. This is, as you know, it's not too much of an experiment because those of you who, and I know quite a few of you have joined me before, but we've done this for about 20 people,
okay,
and it's worked fine. Everyone tells me it works fine for a much larger number, but we will see. 2, 4.
David and others, on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll find, if you put your cursor there, you'll find a little blue arrow, and if you click on it, it'll take you to the right where the additional people are that don't show up. So then you can come back again by moving to the left side of your screen.
Thank you for that. I hadn't realized that. I'd started to realize that there were people here who I couldn't see. So got a few more people to welcome. So Claire and David Quillman from Toronto. No, are you? Yeah, you're in Toronto, aren't you, David? Of course. And Bron. So we've got 32 people here. And Judith. Welcome, Judith. And who else do we have? It's kind of interesting as we get more and more people. It's just interesting. Okay. Have you found that on your own screen, that when you're in the gallery mode, there's a little blue button to the right and left of the screen that will allow you to flip between screens? Okay. Who else has joined us? Sharon. Welcome, Sharon. And Thora. Welcome, Thora. And things are clicking fast now. And Tim. Welcome, Tim. And Nadia. I know Nadia's coming in from the Netherlands. Okay. Welcome, Nadia. So where are we?
Yes, yeah, here I am.
Good. Who else? Well, I'm going to start. I'm going to start absolutely on time. I told everybody I'd start on time. So just give it a minute or two. Chris Merold, welcome. And Kirk, welcome as well. Okay, so we're looking good. How are you doing? Okay. And welcome, Perry. Seems a little dark where you are, but we can see you. And it's 1800 BST or 1700 GMT. So, oh, and Andy, welcome, Andy. So, a few more people here. Hello, Sam. Welcome, Sam. And Tim. I'm losing track of everybody now. Right. Okay. Let me start. Are you all sitting comfortably? Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to say too much. I'm going to try to say as little as I can, because I think the experience of this is in the conversations rather than me talking about the cafe or talking about the history of the cafe or talking at you. But the key thing here is that again, as many of you know, I've been running these knowledge cafes for the last 15 years. and I've always run them face to face until Zoom came along about a year ago. And I realized that this technology really did allow us to run the cafe virtually. And so I've run maybe 4 or 5 of them, because I know quite a few of you have joined earlier this year, and they've been a little bit of an experiment, but I've kept the numbers to about 20. And then when Charles Fowler said, look, it'd be great to do something for World Values Day, I jumped at it. And my first thought was, well, okay, we'll keep the numbers to 20. And then I realized that no, Zoom can support up to 100 people, if not more. Let's go for as many people who care to join us. So that's where we are all today. You know, you've joined us all today, and we can experiment with the cafe with larger numbers. So I'm not going to say anything more about the background. I'm not going to say anything more about the process. What I'm going to do is what I always do when I start a face-to-face knowledge cafe, and that is run something called it's either called speed networking or speed conversation. And I must admit, I haven't actually tried this before in Zoom. So what I'm going to do is send you to breakout rooms in pairs. So you get to have a conversation with one other person in the meeting, probably a stranger, maybe not, I don't know. But you're going to have 2 minutes. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to have a conversation with somebody else, and we're going to have 3 rounds of that, and it'll become rather obvious how it all works as I do it. Yeah, I don't think I need to say anything more than that. And you know, if you are stuck for anything to talk about for those 2 minutes, which I'm sure you won't be, what probably makes sense is to share maybe a value that you know is most important to yourselves. You know, what one value do you what one value do you value, if you will. Okay. So let me do that. Let me send you out to your breakout rooms in pairs. We've probably got an odd number. Almost Sod's law says there'll be an odd number, and it just may be that 1 or 2 of you end up, you know, in 3s, in triplets. But let's see how it works. So what I do is I'm going to create okay, so I'm going to create 15 breakout rooms. So in a moment, you're going to go to your breakout rooms, and I'm going to give you 2 minutes to say hello to somebody. Okay, let's see how this goes. Hello, Graham. Can you hear me? Hmm. Interesting here. Graham, can you hear me? Hmm. One minute. Welcome back, Jocelyn. Welcome back, Kirk. Jocelyn, are you okay?
I'm good.
Good. How did that work?
It was fantastic. It was really, really good.
Good. Because I can't, I don't actually get to join the rooms myself. And
Oh no, well, you're the master. You're the Zoom master.
Did that work for everyone else there as well? I think I had 3 people in a lot of room
Yeah.
rather than 2. Okay, welcome back. Okay, everyone comes back. Is everybody back? I suspect you are all back. So was that a good experience so far?
It was great,
No,
I think.
no problems. Okay, let's do it 2 more times. So get to talk to 2 more people. Let's give this another whirl. Recreate. Okay. 42. I've just realized when I play the video back, people get to see me sitting here fooling around. So I may have to edit it down a little. So how are we doing? Maureen, welcome. Not too sure if you can hear me, but you will realize what's going on in a few minutes. Okay, Maureen, if you can hear me, everybody's coming back from their breakout rooms. So we won't be alone. But not too sure if you can hear me. Here we go. People coming back.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great.
Dennis, welcome.
So has the meeting just started?
It started 50 minutes ago, so people have been chatting in breakout rooms. And I'm just about to do the third round of conversation.
Thank you.
I'm just waiting now for, as you'll see in a moment, there are a few people here. Okay.
David, could I just thank you for handling us so gently between these rooms?
It's not down to me, it's down to Zoom. I've no idea quite what it does, but it seems to work. So one last round. Let's try this one more time. Let's okay.
I like the sound effects.
Yes. Sharon, I got a feeling you were in a room on your own.
I was. I thought maybe I would not have that conversation. I'll come back and chat with you.
Yes, I'm just realizing it's not so bad doing it with a larger number. When you do it in pairs, like it seems to have created 2 rooms with 1 person each, which is not terribly useful, but
I do think about speaking with myself, and then I thought, no, really, not tonight.
and also some people, I can't think of an appropriate word for them. They're dead. They're here, but they're not here, if you know what I mean. So you could end up in a room with I don't know, let's say they're asleep.
Okay.
So interesting so far, because we've got about 40 people. I was hoping for maybe double that, but I think when you do these sorts of things, you do get quite a large dropout.
Yeah,
which is kind of a shame, but
that's not bad though. 40 people.
It's 40 people, and I say originally it was 20. You know, the 117 were from 28 countries. So we've probably got maybe 12, 13 countries here. And the technology does work amazingly well.
It's worked really well. I mean, admittedly, I've got a new laptop, and I think that's helping. Because I think my last one, the webcam used to kill the computer.
I think a lot of this, and the reason this is kind of working now is, you know, the technology is that much better. I mean, people's laptops are more powerful. They've got
working beautifully. It's working beautifully.
So it's going to only get better and better. And I see now that Zoom are playing with virtual reality. So I don't know, at some point we're going to put on some sort of headset and we're actually going to be in the room with everybody.
Wow.
But I think I don't think Henley has got anything to worry about for
please. We're still using Lotus Notes.
So am I. Anyway, I'm going to bring people back together, and we're going to get into. We got 2 short talks coming up, two 10-minute talks.
Great.
And then we can go sort of cafe mode where we'll have a few more people per room. Okay. So let's see how this goes. It's 20 past. 25. Okay, everyone's coming back. Welcome back, Jocelyn. Welcome back, Julie. I've no idea if Francoise is actually there. Are you there, Francoise? I don't think you are.
I am here, David.
You are. Good.
I just don't have a webcam today.
Okay, jolly good. I'm glad you're there. In that case, you were in a room on your own a moment ago.
Yeah.
My apologies for that.
It's okay. The first time it worked, but the second, third time, no. That's fine, don't worry.
So welcome back, everyone. Did that pretty much work for everyone? Any problems there? Yeah?
That was awesome.
It was awesome. Yes? Okay, that worked.
David, the big surprise about randomness is that in the second and the third room, I ended up with the same David.
So did I. I was in the same group as well with the same person, second and third.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not so random. I also discovered that Zoom seems to think that putting one person in a room is a good idea. So I need to keep an eye out for that in future. But basically, that seems to work fine. So what we're going to do now is kind of go into cafe mode, We have two speakers here who are going to speak for 10 minutes each, just to the theme of the cafe, which is all about our values, and this all ties into World Values Day. But I'll let our first speaker say a little bit more about that, and that's Charles Fowler. I met Charles last year when we actually ran a face-to-face knowledge cafe for World Values Day in London, and we decided this year that we would try a virtual one. So this is why you're all here. So before I hand you over to Charles, just a really brief introduction to Charles. Charles spent most of his corporate career in investment banking in the city, but now he chairs the Human Values Foundation. He's a member of the steering group of the UK Values Alliance, and he's really the main organizer behind World Values Day. And,
careful what you say. There's two other organisers here too. So.
Okay.
I wouldn't say him being main.
It's not quite the main. One of the organisers. Okay, Charles. So let me hand you over to you, Charles, and say a few words about World Values Day, what it's all about, and yes.
That's great.
Get us thinking.
Well, I hope I can do that. Thanks very much, David. Yeah, this is organized. This event is organized to be ahead of World Values Day. It's in the run-up to World Values Day, which is on the 19th. Just to get that plug in, 19th of October, so next Thursday. We did this, as David was saying, last year. We did a values cafe on a subject of an aspect of values, and we're sort of rerunning a slightly different theme this year, because this year the theme of World Values Day is to do with values in collective values, values in groups, in organizations, in society. So the way that we understand and express and practice or don't practice values in a collective sense. And the subsidiary theme of the day is and will be, why are they so hard to actually put into practice? What is it about values that makes it so tough? And you might say, are values hard to put into practice? Well, look at the evidence. Look at what happens when we try and have good values. We seem to be beset by values crises at the moment. I mean, you've only got to look at the financial crisis, which I was sort of looked at from the inside. The banking crisis, the crisis in values in international sport, in values in politics at the moment, values, don't let's start on that, but values, for instance, to move swiftly to a more neutral area, values in automobile manufacturing. You've got the diesel emissions scandal. So there's values all over the place where, clearly there's lots of well-expressed values, but somehow we're not living them. In organizations. So are we just forgetting them, or are we remembering them but ignoring them deliberately? In our personal lives, I suggest we tend to do both, but I'd also suggest that somehow in groups, when we get into crowds, in groups, in organizations, we're even worse at it than we are in our personal lives, where quite often, I'm afraid, we do forget and we do ignore our values. So why is that? We all know about organizations, companies, public sector companies, private sector companies, who all these days do have values. They have great values. They have wonderful values in wonderfully, expensive lettering, often in reception area. And we all look at them, or they've got them in gold leaf or gold color lettering in their report and accounts. And they look great. Values like integrity, trust, we're going to make a difference, but somehow they get lost along the way. And why is that? And the difference, the gap between the values we aspire to in organizations and the values we actually practice, we're sort of calling the values gap. And there's a lot about it in various different events and activities on World Values Day. And that's the theme here, the values gap. But it's not just organizations, it's just not groups, It's really society as a whole. In every society, in every country, there seems to be that same gap. It's the same thing, really. I'd like to share with you, if I can, and this is a daring little adventure into managing technology. I'm going to show you a slide, just one slide, I promise not anymore, and I need to be able to find it. Oh, here we are. And what more can I do? Let's just put it up across the whole screen. Yeah, here we are. So does everyone see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep. All good.
Yep.
This is just the UK, but I'd suggest that it's sort of the same for any country around the world. There've been a lot of these national values assessments run by Barrett Value Centre, and I'm sure there are other organisations doing similar things in other countries. But they've done, I don't know what it is, 20 or more of these things around the world in recent years. This one for the UK is not untypical. It's actually a little bit worse in some countries, but not as bad as others. And that the big features you'll see when you look down those two lists is that when individuals, there's something like 4,000 individuals who were all interviewed in a very professional way, using proper market research techniques. And they found out the personal values that everyone has, once they're interrogated about them, once they have to think about them, are really good, as you see. I mean, you can argue about them, but I mean, they're great values, really. Whatever we mean by great values, they're good values, whatever we mean by good values or positive values. And they're all the things you'd want to see: caring, family, honesty, humor, I mean, they're great values. But then they were asked in this survey how they perceived the UK, this particular country's current culture. What did it look like to them? And the words they came up with were almost totally the opposite of those positive values. And you can see the list there. You know, bureaucracy, well, I suppose not so bad, but crime, violence, corruption, conflict, aggression, all those things. I mean, it's awful. And you know, what's happening here? What's going on? And it seems to me that there's, you know, if you want, I can bring that back up, but you get the general idea. It seems to me there's maybe three possible reasons. You can probably come up with some more, but it seems to me it's either the reason for that is that, well, look, we really are all practicing our values, but somehow, I know, the media is giving a false impression of what's going on in the country, and so it's a misrepresented. It's, you know, to use the phrase, it's all fake news. Well, maybe we're all idiots, are we? Or second explanation, we really want to practice those values, but there's something stopping us. You know, it's big government, or it's big business, or big media, or it's a conspiracy. It's all somehow being manipulated, really. Then the third explanation, and you'll probably guess which one I'd come down in favor of, is that basically we have good values, but basically we're not practicing them, because if we were, I guess, you know, the world we saw around us, the country we see around us, the world we see around us wouldn't be perceived in such a grim way. It's perceived in a grim way because actually we're not practicing the values. We all have them, it seems. These sort of surveys show it, and we're not practicing them. So which answer do you go for? That'll be food for thought for you, I think, in the rest of it. And I'd like to just finish before I hand over. David, have I got another minute, or am I?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no problem.
With a little example of how it can work, that, you know, all of us can have this little bit of myopia as regard values. We see the values, we can even think about the values, and we can remember them, but somehow they don't get into our lives. We don't live them. And it's just a little story from a workshop that I was involved in with groups of people from the housing sector, and all great people, all very caring people. And one particular guy was there, and we sent them all off, him included, on an exercise where they were meant to be trying to live a particular value. And that week, it was the value of delegation, how to delegate, involving other people, sharing. And as it happened, he was off work that week. He was taking some leave, so he couldn't practice this value of delegation and empowerment. Sorry, it's delegation and empowerment with his colleagues. And he said, actually, I was pretty good at that. And I sat around for a week, and I didn't quite know what to do. I thought, well, what's going on? And then he suddenly, he was having at the time trouble with his son, who was about 15 or 16, and there was a lot of friction, which was causing a lot of problems in the family, and it was all to do with the son wanting to go out and didn't want to get back in, and his father was saying, you've got to be back by this time, you've got to do this, and then he had a light bulb moment. He thought, it's empowerment. It's empowering, and I've just been blind. I'm so good, I think, at living the values at work, but I just haven't been living them at home, and it's caused all these problems. So he suddenly realized, he's a great chap, really thoughtful, really caring, loving guy, but it hadn't woken up to him. So I think that's the sort of example. All of us are those guys, really. It can happen to all of us, and it does. So that was my sort of, I guess, high-level view on what we might discuss today. I'm going to hand over. Shall I hand over, David, or are you going to do? You want to do a little intro, don't you?
I'll let you hand over.
Yeah.
You
okay.
hand over there, Charles.
My colleague Alan Williams is now going to take over, and Alan and I and Lindsay West, who's also on this call, are involved in organising World Values Day, and we're all members of something called the UK Values Alliance. And Alan is a values practitioner as well. He works with organisations, with companies, to try and get them to live their values. So he's got a particular really insight into how values get practiced or don't get practiced in companies, and he's going to take over and give you some thoughts too to stimulate today's conversation. Thanks very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, Charles.
So, like Charles has alluded, this is a massive, big topic. And I think that's part of the challenge with it. So I'm going to start with a metaphor, which I think serves very well to help us think about this big, big topic. And it's a story of a telephone conversation between two business colleagues, let's say Jim and Sarah. And Jim is in the office and Sarah is in her car on the way to the office. They're having this telephone call. So Jim says to Sarah, Sarah, what time do you think you'll get to the office this afternoon? And she says, well, Jim, it'll probably be the middle of the afternoon, but I'm not sure exactly what time because I'm stuck in traffic. And so Jim says, well, okay, we'll see you when you get here. But by the way, you are the traffic. And just consider that for a moment. How often have we been in a traffic jam and thought of it as something that we're detached from and controls us? Whereas what difference could we have made if we had decided to come off of the motorway and maybe hundreds of other people had made a similar decision to make their way in a different way and made it so much better for everybody else? So I think that's an interesting, like I say, an interesting metaphor for today's topic. And I had a similar personal experience. Charles has mentioned the work that I do. I use a particular tool called the 31 Practices. And as a bit of background, basically that is helping organizations with their employees to create a set of very practical day-to-day behaviors which are explicitly connected to their stated values. And then they practice them on a daily basis so that it becomes embedded. Anyway, I was in New York conducting a review with one of my client organizations. And the review consists of speaking to the employees at all different levels. And I was speaking to a group of frontline employees about this. And one of them said, we think this approach is great because it gives you a daily focus. It's really simple and you know whether you're doing it. But I think management could really pay a lot more attention to it and support it a lot more. So I made the notes and then I just found myself asking the question, why are you saying that? Because, if you just did it and everybody else alongside you just did it, then management wouldn't have to bother supporting it all with lots of complicated process and management. And the guy looked at me and said, yeah, I suppose you're right. But it wasn't a natural position for that person to take. Again, they kind of detached themselves from the situation, made out that it's something to do with other things, and that you're controlled by your environment. So that's for me, that's a very interesting point about the balance between how much control we believe we have and how much control we're willing to just give over to the ecosystem in which we exist and operate. And I guess my view is that I'm not suggesting that we should disregard the ecosystem. You know, that's not the case. It does exist, and perhaps it does provide challenge. But I think the question is, do we sometimes kid ourselves that it's there more than it really is? You know, do we just play to the tune that's being played around us rather than take conscious decisions and do what we believe is the right thing to do? And I think at this time, because we're so transparent in the world today, it's even more important than it's ever been before. And if you think about it at an individual level, Charles has mentioned some of the corporate examples that have come about in recent times. If you think on a personal level, when I was growing up, you were kind of educated to try and be this thing that other people would want. So to create this persona or face. And if you did it really, really well, then you would be successful. Now the world is too transparent, I think, to do that. So if you create this face, first, it's really hard work. But second, it's going to slip. The mask is going to slip. And then, because we're so socially connected, lots of people are going to find out very fast. And you know, if you think about on a corporate level again, to give another example in addition to the ones Charles has already mentioned, Bell Pottinger, would that have happened 40 years ago, where a PR company loses the confidence of its clients and then basically goes bust in a very short period of time? So I'm going to leave you with two quotes that, for me, summarize this whole topic really, really well. And David, one of these quotes I found on your website. So
okay.
just to remind everybody, that's www.gertine.com. And this is a quote by Socrates, who said, "Let him that would move the world first move himself." So that one I love, and obviously it's from a very well-respected guy. And in contrast to that, this is by Yogi Berra, who was a baseball coach for the New York Yankees for most of his time. And this is probably in my top 3 favorite quotes. And what he said was, "In theory, there is no difference between theory and practice. In practice, there is." And so for me, on the topic of values and living in line with those values, those 2 themes, first, look at yourself and get on with it. And then secondly, practice rather than theorize would serve us very well. Thank you.
Okay. Big thank you, Charles, and a big thank you, Alan. So I think just looking at I hope you've got the group chat switched on, because quite a few people have been commenting as we've been going along. It's just worth keeping an eye on that chat, because it just adds some an extra dimension to the talks, if you will. So you've got the idea what this is about. It's about what can we do to better live our values? And you know, in true cafe tradition, the question of the cafe is, you know, what could be done, what can we do to bring our values to life? So this is the question that's going to trigger the conversations. What could be done to bring our values to life? Yeah? Makes sense? What could be done to bring our values to life? So what I'm going to do now is go into cafe mode. I'm going to give you 3 rounds of conversation, about 10 to 15 minutes long. And this time, I'm going to put you in slightly larger groups. Hopefully nobody will be in a group of 1 or a group of 2. Yeah, all make sense?
Yeah.
Think that'll work? Let's give it a whirl, shall we? Where are we? Breakout rooms. Just bear with me while I do this. That should work. Let's try this. Okay. As you all disappear to your breakout rooms, what could be done to bring values to life? Maureen, can you hear me? Maureen.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Are you having a problem there?
No, I was just going to type a message to say I'll have to leave now. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay, no problem. I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen of the cafe so far.
Very much. Thank you very much for your input.
You're very welcome. It seems to be working reasonably well. Okay, I'll do what I normally do. I'll talk to the screen. See, you're there still, Maureen, so you can probably hear me. But normally I'm here on my own. I can't actually join the rooms because if I do, I actually lose control. So I've got to stay on my own. But it gives me a chance to reflect, not so much on the question, but on the Zoom experience itself. We seem to have, what do we have? About 45 people, 13 rooms, 3 to 4 people per room. And that seems to be working quite well. I've not seen any complaints or issues in the chat. Mary, welcome. Let's unmute you.
I put it on my calendar for tomorrow. I'm sorry. So.
That's the sort of thing I do.
I'm glad I caught it. I happened to be going through my emails and it said it's today.
Ah, okay. Well, everything's going fine so far. Out of about the 120 people who signed up, only 45 have turned up. A few less than I would have hoped for, but
yeah.
still a healthy number.
I've never tried breakout groups myself, so I'm interested to see how it goes.
Okay, well, they're in the first breakout group now, so there's so I'm sitting here on my own. Well, Maureen's here, but
okay.
I'm here. Yeah, I'm still typing a chat.
okay, Maureen. Because Maureen needs to leave in a few minutes, so she didn't join the breakout room. So
I'll stand by. That's fine.
Stand by. We can chat, and then you can go into the second and third round of conversation. So I'm just looking at this. We've got 13 breakout rooms, 3 to 4 people per breakout room, and we just had 2 speakers, Charles Fowler and forgetting his name now, Alan Williams, who spoke about this difference between the values we espouse, if you like, and the values we practice. You know, we've got these wonderful ideas, what wonderful people we are, what wonderful values we live to, but in reality, we tend not to. And so really, the question last year, we did a face-to-face cafe last year, was, you know, why was that? But the question this year is, what could we do to bring our values to life? You know, we've all got values. What could we do more to bring them to life? So that's what people are discussing right now. And have you got the chat panel switched on?
No, but I can.
Yeah, you'll see that there's quite a few comments and questions that came up, and that's just worth browsing through.
Yeah, maybe because I came in late, I don't see it, but that's okay.
Oh, really? That's maybe not. Maybe you won't. Maybe you will only see the chat from the point you joined. That's not so good, is it?
There's a good learning, huh? Yeah, you'd think. I don't think there's a setting for that, as far as I know.
I don't think so, is it either? What I did discover.
I've been using Zoom in a number of use cases, and I'm getting much better at filming on one screen, using 2 screens, and keeping my workspace on one, and then just filming my other view. You're recording it. I don't know if you ever record things, but
I'm recording this now, but I haven't experimented with 2 screens.
I'll share a document that I got off the Zoom website that I've found to be really helpful. It's for their webinar, but a lot of the functionality also applies to the meetings.
Okay.
So.
Because I've run this now maybe 6 times and reasonably comfortable with the things that I know about.
Right.
I'm sure there are things and tips and techniques that I haven't discovered yet. I just discovered with the breakout rooms that it's possible, if you create too many rooms, to create rooms of 1 person.
Oh, okay. Oh, because it sorts them kind of. I think, can you manually sort them, or it's auto?
You can manually sort them. I mean, I think what I just need to remember to do is, when it's automatically creates the rooms, just to visually check that I don't have any rooms of one. And of course, occasionally you've got people on here, they've gone to coffee, they've gone somewhere,
Oh yeah.
they're kind of dead. So I started out doing sort of 3 rounds of speed conversation, putting people in pairs. But I just realized that's just a little bit dangerous in so much that you can get the situation where people are on their own.
Yep.
But then they can always come back to the main room and chat with me. So that's okay.
Yep. Good. I'm just sending you this. It's called Online Event Best Practices, and there were some good tips in there that I've been using. So.
Okay.
But I haven't done the breakout room, so I'm anxious to experience that.
No, they work. I mean, it's the break. I mean, I've been running the knowledge cafes, the face-to-face ones, for 15 years, and people
Right.
were always asking, can we do them online? Can we do them virtually?
Right.
And I was saying, well, no, the technology is not up to it.
Yeah.
And then when I saw that Zoom had breakout rooms, I thought, oh, yes, maybe we can do this. And then,
So I don't know when you bought your Zoom license if somebody reached out to you from the company, but when I bought mine, I had a video invitation from this young man, and he was a super techie with his baseball cap on, and he just said, "Hey, Mary, how's it going? Let me tell you about us." But these are all people that helped create the what was the the one that Citrix built, and that
it was the earlier.
Yeah. Anyway,
I've forgotten the name now.
they're all refugees from there, which I used to pay
Yes.
for. I used to have that system, and they all were like, "This is what we wanted to do," and they kept holding us back.
Yeah.
So anyway, and it's super friendly, and WebEx.
WebEx, that's right, it was WebEx.
And
I think
Cisco.
this is why it's so good.
Yes.
I've forgotten the guy, an Asian guy.
Eric Yuan, yeah.
Who jumped ship.
Yep.
And took, 40 of the top engineers with him.
Yep.
And they've built it from the ground up, because WebEx was, I think, originally coded back in the 90s. So it was,
probably, yeah.
it was showing its age.
And Skype falls off after a certain number of people.
Yeah.
So it was, it's like the first that feels like it was actually built to do what we want it to do.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think it's because it's been built more recently that it's not just the breakout rooms, it's just the quality, the stability, the number of people it can support.
I agree.
All that together, plus it's low cost.
Yeah.
Which also helps.
Yes, indeed.
So no, this is. So what sort of thing do you use it for? How do you use it?
I have an organization that it's a network of chapters around the country, and we use it for all of our meetings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just starting a program for the integrated reporting movement. We've started a US community, and we're going to have a monthly program, and I'll use it for that. And it's interesting. I've decided that I'm going to record the first part of the program where we're going to do a tour of a public thing, and then I'm going to turn off the recording and tell everybody, okay, now Chatham House rule,
Okay.
I want people to share, and
Yeah.
please treat this confidentially. So I've never done that, kind of have a 2-part program, but I think if I have a slide and I tell people what we're doing, because I don't want to lose the opportunity to create some content that's on the website.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So
okay, I'm just looking at the time.
Okay.
I probably want to bring people back. So
well, nice having the time with you.
That's right. Yes, it's been rather good. I was hoping somebody would come in, because actually what we're doing in the past, I sit here and I think about the Zoom process and the Zoom technology, and I just talk to the screen. I just share my thoughts with the screen. Which the idea is that I should come back and watch it later, but of course I never found the time to do that. So anyway, let's bring people back, shall we? Here we go. I wish we could control the time. It's fixed at 60 seconds, but I guess 60 seconds is okay.
What, that gives people a warning?
Yes, so all breakout rooms will close in 41 seconds, so people can come back manually, or after 1 minute they get forced back. Sorry, I'd forgotten that you hadn't used it before.
Yeah, no, that's great.
But it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So 19 seconds, 18 seconds, they should all start. They're busy talking, you see, because nobody's
come back. Yeah, well, that's right.
You can also send a message, a broadcast message to all the rooms. That might be worth doing in future. Here we go. Here we go. Way. Welcome back, everyone. I think you're all back, aren't you? So I normally get to sit here on my own talking to myself, forgetting that it's being recorded. So I need to behave myself. But Mary Adams has just joined us, so I've been having my own one-to-one conversation here while you've been chatting away. So I'm kind of going to assume that everything went fine there. That you've had some interesting conversations. Yeah. Okay. So let's do the second round, and hopefully Zoom will do this reasonably at random, that you won't end up with the same people. So let's give this another go. Yeah, here we go. Let me just check here.
Is it a different question, David?
It's the same. No, it's the same question, which is the way it works. Always in the cafe. I just want to do something here. There's one room with only 2 people, and there's a couple of rooms only 2 people. Let's I can manually move people between rooms. There we go. Okay. See you in 10 minutes. Okay. So note to myself, what I did that time was I checked the bottom rooms. Check. Only 2, so I move them. Right, okay. Okay. Let's see how we're doing. Okay. So, Ruben, thank you. Alan.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can't see you, but
No, I switched off my video because it started to go a bit wobbly.
okay.
So I thought I'd come back in this room. Now my signal looks fine. Are you able to send me back again?
I don't think, I was just looking to see if I could. I don't think I can.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'll just listen to you talk to yourself.
Exactly. No, that's one thing. Okay, we got Kelvin. I don't think Kelvin has, I think we got one unassigned participant. Just bear with me. I'm just trying to figure out whether.
Okay.
Yes, I can. I can't. Because, hello, Kelvin. Welcome. Because Kelvin has just joined late, I can assign Kelvin to a room, but I can't assign you.
Okay, not to worry.
Okay, not to worry. There's just learning a few things about Zoom. There's it's pretty good, but there are a few little maybe idiosyncrasies.
Yeah.
Let's see if.
And by the way, I've got a bone to pick with you.
Oh dear. Okay, what's that?
Are you trying to set me up with Lim Bourget?
No. Why?
That was the third consecutive session. And she started to say things like, "This is meant to be."
God moves in mysterious ways. Well, you never know. I often wonder about this world. I've got a feeling that it's not what we think it is. It's.
I think you might be right.
But yeah. So Calvin, can you? Let's unmute you. Can you hear us, Calvin? Calvin, are you there? I'm just trying to. Yes, Calvin, I remember you now because you're coming in from Trinidad and Tobago. And if you can hear me. We can't hear you. So send you a text message, can't hear you. Calvin. Is that any better? Kelvin? No, okay.
Yes, David.
I'm
here.
You're there? Okay.
Yes,
we can only just see you.
I'm having a little trouble with my internet.
Okay.
I'm going to move my laptop closer to the modem.
That often works. It works for me as well. So I'll let you do that. So where are we? So it seems to be working quite well so far, Alan. What do you make of it?
Yeah, conversations have been really good, engaging, people interested. Yeah, it's been very positive. I guess it's going to be interesting to understand how. Yeah, I'm sat there thinking, I wonder what other people were talking about.
Well, what about me? I'm out here. I've got no idea what they're talking about. But I know a lot of the people, and I know this is a topic that's in many ways very close to their hearts, very dear to them. They will certainly be engaged.
I can't see the chat anymore because it says there are 3 participants, and I can't see the previous chat. But have people been posting on there?
No, that's something that I learned, is that if you come in late or if you leave and come back, you don't see the earlier chat.
Right, okay.
Which is fine. Samira, welcome back. Let me just unmute you. Are you there?
Yeah, hello.
Jolly good. Did you leave us for a little while?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I'm going to do something quickly.
So
Is it finished?
people are in the second round of Cafe Conversation.
All right, okay. Yeah.
I'll be bringing them back in about 3 minutes.
Okay.
And then we'll go into the third round.
Okay.
And then we'll come back together as a whole group, and a few people will get to share some of their thoughts and ideas. But are you still running the knowledge cafes there in Nigeria?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Good.
I tried to do one on values, but by World Values Day, but it didn't work, so because of the schedule.
Okay, so Samira meet Alan, Alan meets Samira.
Hello.
Hi, Samira.
Nice to meet you.
Samira and I got to know each other quite well because she's been running knowledge cafes. It's the National Petroleum Company of Nigeria. I've forgotten the full name.
Yes, the NNP.
Yeah. And you joined us on one of my earlier cafes as well.
Yes, the first experiment.
That's right, the very first one, my very first experiment. I say this is a somewhat larger experiment, but
Where are you from?
I'm sorry?
I said, where is Alan from?
Oh, I'm in London.
All right.
Okay, we've got two more join us. Okay.
You're hearing me? I'm back.
Okay, I can hear you, Kelvin. And is it Jap? I'm not too sure I pronounce your name. Yap. Yap. But Yap, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Welcome. So let's see where we are now. We're in the second round of Cafe Conversations. So there's one more round to go. We've got about 45 people here. What I'm going to do now is bring everybody back and then send everyone off for the third round of conversation. So I will be all on my own again. So let me bring people back. They get a 1 minute. They get a 1 minute notice. So in about 50 seconds or so, people will start coming back to this main room.
Do you get to record the breakout sessions?
No, unfortunately not. You can only record what you can see, which is interesting. So because I'm not in the breakout rooms, what I can do, and I've not tried doing it, is give people permission to record the breakout rooms. But that means, I've got to plan that up front and teach people how to do. Well, it's simple enough, but just to show people how to do it. So I don't actually get a recording of the breakout rooms, unfortunately. Welcome back. Okay. So a few more people, two or three more people have joined us while you were away. Hello, Kitty. What do you reckon? Is this fun or is this fun?
It's
Yes?
fun.
It's fun.
Yes.
It's great fun, but I'm not sure how the randomness works. We had exactly the same group as the first time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's not so terribly random. And of course, with a large number, if I try to do it by hand, it's going to take me a long time. Oh, okay.
It is actually random because by statistics, you will get some repeats.
It could get the randomness right. That's not too difficult, surely.
Well, my groups were seemingly totally at random, so it worked, but obviously it doesn't always work.
It doesn't always. Okay. So I think we've got most people back. So one last round of conversation, hopefully a little more random, and then we'll bring everyone back.
Can you ramp up the randomness a bit? You know, just push the up towards hot random.
That's what I need is an ability to do that. I will
ask for extra randomness.
Okay, let's see what we got here. Right, here we go. I hope this works a little better for you.
Give it a big shake.
Yeah, indeed. That's not very good.
Hi. Julie, are you in the group? No. Oh.
You got your rooms? Sam, you're still with me.
Actually, I'm going to have to go in a minute, David. So I've really enjoyed looking at the technology because I'm wanting to do something with in healthcare internationally, which is trying to sort of begin a social movement about a particular problem about why nobody cares about asthma. And you know, a lot of people die unnecessarily. It's a very avoidable problem, and it's something about it is about values. It's about not valuing the patient experience enough, and also having a fear of fear driving a lot of behaviour rather than values driving it.
Yeah. That's an interesting insight.
And so I think that it would be really good to explore more of that, why are people afraid? Why are clinicians afraid of talking to patients properly and listening to them and respecting their views, and also patients to be able to declare what they're afraid of, because I think that it's a really big undercurrent in all healthcare at the moment. Courage and compassion get really pushed aside by fear and financial constraint. And some of it's about skills. I think it will be possible. It is possible to teach sort of compassionate care. You know, some people are going to be better at it than others, but you know, I think that learning how to teach empathy and compassion, I think, will have a role. But of course, it's not exactly high up on a funder's list of things to fund in health.
The soft things never are they? They're the most important things, but they are never high on the list.
But having a conversation like this, you know, multiple conversations like this, which would both give people feel like there was a community, a large community they could be part of, and giving them an opportunity to tell stories and also just, you know, be quite authentic in terms of
yes.
opinion, I think could be great.
Now for a long time I said you couldn't do this through technology, but I'm starting to change my mind. You know, it's not quite the same as face to face, but you know, if you're looking to bring people together who are geographically dispersed and you can't easily bring them together, this is doing a pretty good job.
And we see we're a charity that works internationally, and so all our board meetings are all by Zoom and have been for some time. And our subcommittees, we had a subcommittee last night also by Zoom, worked perfectly, because also you can record, so that is really helpful.
Yes. Very helpful.
But I've never tried using it for this more dynamic, fluid sort of meeting. And I think
you can use it as a webinar sort of replacement, but to
have this, and I was just reading from your last blog, I was reading more on Peter Bloch's work, and it fits really beautifully with that, bringing strangers together and group work and so on.
Peter Bloch has had a huge influence on me. I keep reading and rereading his material. He's got a strange sort of writing style. You've probably noticed. He never says.
I was looking at a video of his the other day, and actually it's the first time in a very long time that I watched the whole video in like an hour of him teaching, and I showed it to a couple of other people, and they were really engrossed and watched the whole hour as well. So I think that because he practices what he preaches, doesn't he?
He does indeed.
Yeah, that's what makes him so engaging, I think.
And he's been, he's. I think he's older than me, so he's a bit
of wisdom.
He's certainly better than me. He's been practicing this for a long time. There's a few people in this world that has had a big influence on me, and he's one of them.
Yeah. So I think it is. It has real potential, actually. Is there? And I'm just wondering. There's not a way you can draw things as well, is there? I'm just thinking.
There is. Yes, there is. If you take your mouse down to the bottom and click on share screen.
Yeah.
There's a whiteboard.
Oh, it's a whiteboard. Oh, yeah. So I could see how that could work as well when somebody just wants to, describe something, because there's some of the people we work with aren't so good at speaking English, and they would be slow in the chat, but they might be able to draw a diagram or something which might work for them. Certainly our Latin American colleagues, they can't speak English so fluently.
So that's a possibility. I mean, the other thing as well here, you can actually share your iPhone screen with everybody. I tried it with mine, but it's very slow and clunky. But I thought it was a rather interesting ability.
Yeah. Well, I think
built in.
And I mean, it's certainly I mean, I use Evernote a lot, so obviously it shares.
I love Evernote. That's I live in Evernote.
I know. I mean, I use it more and more actually, and its searching ability is great. And
it's searching, but the thing is, it's clipping ability. The ability, you find a website, a blog, you can clip it, you can clip the text, you can clip the image, you can categorize it, you can tag it. So I'm writing this book on conversational leadership. All the research material, both the stuff I've clipped and stuff I write, sort of just off the top of my head, it's all there. It's all there in Evernote, and I use a little iPhone app called Captio, and I can just dictate a thought into it, press the button, and it emails it into Evernote. Love it. Absolutely love it.
Now I have to go and see my family because I've got a home office, and I'm hearing noises of we're hungry upstairs.
Okay.
So I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you so much for setting this up. And so my name isn't Sam Lowe, it's Sean Williams. But anyway, it's nice.
I was wondering that because I was looking at my list for you, and I'm thinking, I don't have a Sam Lowe.
No, my name is Sean Williams. It's just that because we use Zoom all the time and we've got a business account, we've got one registration, which is by my colleague Sam, and so I always seem to appear now as Sam Lowe. There must be a way of changing that, but I haven't worked it out.
Yes, in fact, I think you can change it on the fly. I think if you go up to the participants list, you can actually change it.
Oh right, okay. Well, I need to sort that out. Yeah.
Well, look. Anyway.
Yeah. Let me just, oh yeah, rename. Look, I'm just going to do it now.
Yeah, you can call yourself anything you want.
Rename, but then clicking on that, but I don't know how you do it.
It takes a few, having renamed it.
No, I'm saying I'm clicking on rename, but then it doesn't do anything.
Oh, it's not doing anything. I wonder if
oh yeah, now it does. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Oh, that's better. Excellent.
Right. Okay.
All right. Well, look, you're going to have to bring everybody back. So I really appreciate it again. So nice to speak to you.
Okay. Have a really good evening.
Cheers. Thanks. Bye.
Look after the family.
I will.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, Shan. Right. We've got too many twos here. Far too many twos. Why is that? Got to get better at doing that. Where's my wife? Okay. That's pretty good. Okay, so let's 15, 30. Oh, okay, looking time. Okay. Oh. Modules. Okay. Okay. Welcome back. Hi, Judith. Okay, how are we doing? Slowly, everybody returns.
Was that gin and tonic, David?
I wish it was. Hey, no, that would be a big gin and tonic.
It's the vodka, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Chris.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. Now, normally in a face-to-face cafe, I would tell everybody to push their tables to one side and to form a circle with their chairs, and we would have a whole group conversation. Not quite so easy to do with this number of people, but so allowed 15 minutes or so for this little section. What makes more sense, I think, here in Zoom is for just one or two people. Clearly, we don't have time for everybody. Just to do a very short report back. Now, as I say, I don't think everyone can do this. So I think the best way of doing it is to ask people to kind of raise their hands. If you remember, over to the right-hand side of one of your panels, I'm not too sure where it is, there's a little raise hand button.
We could raise our hand physically, of course.
You could. What I've discovered, it's harder to spot. For me, it's harder to spot that. When you do it through the little button, for some reason, psychologically, it's a lot easier. But so raise your hands if you want to share something, and I will call on people in turn to.
It's in the participants. If you click on participants,
yes,
you'll see at the bottom a me and a raise hand. If you click on raise hand, it signals somehow.
Okay. So Eric, I can't see you on the screen, Eric, but I can see you raised your hand. So would you like to share some thoughts with us?
Okay, very briefly, a couple of things that we talked about in, well, different pairings were the dilemma that you face with the pressure in the pressure situation when you're not aware of what you're actually, you're not so aware of the values that you're living when you're under pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And another point was the question of ownership in a group situation. If the group doesn't have ownership to the proclaimed values, well, how can they be lived?
That's just to get my head around that. So now you're talking about group values. So organizational values, where an organization might have stated some values for the organization or the group or the team.
Well, for me personally, if an organization states a bunch of values, they're not values, they're statements.
They're statements. You certainly don't own them.
Yeah, you don't own them. So they only work, and this is picking up a little bit on what Charles was saying earlier.
Indeed, yeah. Okay.
Okay, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, Eric, thank you. David Crowman, where's David?
I'm here. So
there you are. Yep.
Go ahead.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so in terms of something to help us live our values, certainly the importance of reflection, like this kind of thing. People talk about doing some of the world values or values tests online to help you reflect on your value, as well as having people who can coach you on your values or coach you on your self-reflection. So in terms of, what is something specific that we can do, that reflection is a big part of it. Another thing that came up is how valuable it is to live in a foreign culture for a period of time as a way of really understanding values and broadening your mind. So that was another one that sort of landed on me.
Yes,
it may be, well, that's something we can do ourselves, and we can try to make sure our kids do it, and we can encourage other people to do it as a way of developing clearer values. We also touched on the issue of, and it's one of my discussions about, how sometimes you simply cannot live values when the group doesn't. So that issue came up as well. And another issue that relates to groups is that we have to have some mechanisms for dealing with conflicting values so that we may get very clear about our own values, and we get that all nailed down through reflection and coaching and, online applications and so on. But then we run into somebody who has quite different values, and we think, well, how are we going to manage those conflicts? And that's an interesting question.
Yeah, I like the point you make about living in a foreign culture. My oldest daughter has just spent a year in China, and she spent quite a bit of time reflecting on her life there, and blogged about it. And you just seeing the culture through her eyes was really quite interesting. Yeah. Okay, thank you, David. Who else? Who else would like to share something with the group? No? Kirk? Kirk, are you there?
Okay, good. I mean, apart from the content that we talked about, the thing that I wanted to comment about is that this is only my second Knowledge Cafe, and I'm still really struck by the quality of the conversation that I can have with people that I've never met before in some other part of the world through an online medium. And I just wanted to say that I found it really meaningful. It's like, I don't think it would have been more meaningful if they would have been right here in the office. So I find I'm really surprised by just how much I enjoyed it and how impactful it is. So that's all I want to say.
Okay, lovely, thank you. No, it surprised me as well that this comes so close to sort of a face-to-face or a group conversation. I mean, it's not quite there, but it does an amazingly good job. Peter Peter in Bologna.
Thanks, David. I'm not even sure what I would like to share, but definitely what I would like to share is that this great being together has raised my awareness about values and has raised a lot of questions that I try to write down for myself and which I have to think about. And some of the things I've discussed in some of the groups is whether I would have a hierarchy of values, more important and less important values. And another thing that came up is what influences are there that make my mix of values change over time. And that's both true for myself, but I certainly see that happening, I think, in society. Let's talk about the global society. And this is probably due to that. It sounds terrible. That many people don't reflect too much, don't think too much, don't want to think too much. I want to have an easy life. In my values, it sounds terrible. They're probably too lazy to want to think about it. Yeah, let me stop here.
Okay, yeah, lovely. Thank you, Peter. I think it's always, for me, it's always been one of the aspects of the cafe. It's the conversations. Well, first of all, there's the conversations that you have during the cafe, and then there are the conversations you have with yourself in your head afterwards, the reflection that goes on. And often it's something that's been said, something that's been questioned during the conversation that sticks with you. And you spend quite some time just reflecting on that. So Chris Nels,
do I need to unmute or am I automatically? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so building on what Eric was saying, the thing that really, there are things you know, but somehow they're not as prominent in your mind as you'd like them to be. it's really the group. So yes, we live our values, we try to live our values, but what does that mean? We're social beings. We're in a world at large. So really, if we start thinking, I'm going to start thinking of myself more as part of different groups, and how am I living my values within those groups, and how am I going to help those groups, really evolve, live values that the group is comfortable with. So there's this organic group element that really I hadn't been thinking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my comment.
Interesting. Okay, thanks, Chris. And Julie.
Myself. Yes, I had some very, very interesting conversations in the breakout groups. There was a few things that came up that were very, very, they came up in different groups. So I think it's worth mentioning is the fact that, sometimes, we have the values, but we need to be able to defend our values or to live those values, but in a world where maybe we'll be with people that absolutely have opposite values to us, and that the listening, the active listening or the compassionate listening that we need to do in those circumstances is something that we perhaps need to work on much more, because we can so easily fall into my values are my values and I'm sticking to them and not moving, and and it's kind of it's just going nowhere, because you're not listening to the other person or to the other person's fear or shame or anger or violence or whatever that may be. But in one of the groups, I was talking with Judith and Kurt, and Judith came up with, I need to know why I'm doing this. I need to know the why of why I'm putting forward my values and understanding somebody else's values, especially if those values do not agree with my values. And it came as an image in my mind as we were speaking that I don't know if you've heard of a guy called Paul Stamets. He's the guy in the States who's very into mushrooms and how the mycelium connect to each other underground.
Yeah.
And I think that wherever we are, and Judith brought this up, wherever we are, we need to have that space within ourselves to be calm enough with ourselves before we can begin to be calm and listen truly to what the other is sharing with us. And perhaps only then we can bring our values alive through that communication, because we are truly listening to what the other wants to say. And it just seemed, this connection, because we were talking about the connection, we are all connected. And the more we connect with each other in the present moment, of course, because that's all we've actually got, then there is hope, because you can of course you can share your values or stand up to your or protect your values, but we can't do that if we're not listening to the other.
I mean, it's interesting just observing what's going on in the States at the moment, I guess, between sort of the liberals and the conservatives, two very opposing sets of values in conflict, and really neither side listening to each other. And it's not just the States. We've got very similar conflicts here, I guess,
Absolutely.
with the UK and around the world. How do we, as you say, how do we stop and listen to each other and question?
Hold the space, and hold the space for the other.
Yeah, indeed. Okay. Anybody else like to comment? Frank, do you want to come in there?
Yes. This is the most brilliant thing I've ever participated in, and Julie, I would like to also praise for what you said. It was absolutely marvelous. I very much agree with this, with you, compassionate listening, and I would add to that perhaps also when I think about listening, I also think about asking questions. So maybe helping each other express our values. It can be difficult to articulate what values you have. It can be difficult to articulate what behavior you actually use to live those values. And having someone to ask you those questions so you actually can express your values can be very helpful. So thank you for that, Julie.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Well, let's stop there, because what's quite amazing is that we're running pretty much to time. So we've got about 15 minutes left before the turn of the hour. Just two things I want to do, kind of in conclusion. I guess the first is to call on Charles and call on Alan, just to share some summary thoughts with the group. How have you felt this has gone, and what have you learnt from the cafe? So maybe start with you, Charles.
Sure, yeah, that's good. I think the word that comes to me and came from the group discussions a lot was sharing. It was just mentioned a moment ago again. I think sharing our ideas about values, our thoughts about our own values, sharing other people's values through their conversations about their values, it seems to me is very powerful and has a great energy about it. And I think that came through, even separated as we are by lots of thousands of miles in some cases, and certainly by a big distance in all cases. That comes through, and I think I guess I've certainly found it, and I think others have found it, when you have a discussion in a group, or just two of you, about values, it's something that's very powerful, and so sharing it, I think, is very important. And then touching on something again that was mentioned just now about, actually you mentioned, David, about the opposing people who seem to have opposing values. I think one way of really turning that into a more positive situation is, again, through sharing, because I really believe in the power of values, not to solve all problems, because obviously they don't, but at least to give you a language with which you can actually talk about those values and see maybe that all those guys over there who, they've really bugged me, they're really winding me up, they're really making me angry. But when I sit down with them and maybe exchange some views and maybe hear about what are the values, or even analyze from a distance what are the values that they hold, maybe I can begin to see that those values aren't necessarily alien to me. I can share a lot of those values. I may actually prioritize them differently, and I may draw slightly different conclusions in terms of my own behavior, or what behavior I believe our society should respect and indulge in. So I may draw different conclusions, but I can see that they hold their opinions, which I disagree with, out of some very solidly and firmly and sincerely held values, quite often, not always, but often. And there's a lot of common ground I think we can find, and we can actually adopt. It can be a discussion which can become very constructive, because we suddenly find that we're looking at the shared space that we hold together with our shared values, or our overlapping values, because almost all that values overlap heavily with other values.
Yeah,
and there's common values at the root. So I think sharing is a big thing, and I think it's very powerful. And if we're looking for a way in which we can reinforce values that we want to see in our society, or in our groups, or in our families, or wherever it is in our organizations and in our own lives, then I think sharing is maybe one of the ways we can look to do that. And the more we share, not just with people who think along the same lines as us, but with other people who maybe don't think along the same lines as us, and find those common values, I think that can be very powerful and very important and very constructive.
Okay, Charles. Let's turn to Alan. Alan, would you like to say a few words?
David. Sure. For me, there are a couple of things coming through us. The first thoughts are really related to what Charles was just talking about. And I think for me, the word that comes through is, well, the phrase is about seeking to understand. So a lot of people talk about values and whether they're good values or whether they're not the right values. I kind of don't subscribe to that so much. I tend to think more along the lines of, if you believe in something and you act in line with what you believe in, then that's good. You believe in it, so get on with it. Live your life in line with what you believe in. But then, rather than feel that you should need to defend your own values or criticize somebody else for their values, why not instead, just like Charles was alluding to, seek to understand why they're behaving like that? Why do they believe in those things? And have a dialogue rather than an argument. So that's the first thing. The second thing I think that's coming through is the importance of consciousness and awareness. A lot of people have talked about this. Here, I guess I would lay down a challenge. Once you've got that in place, please don't relax, please then practice, because if it remains just in your head and you're just aware of it, but you're not actually doing anything with it, then you're leaving a lot on the table. Those are a couple of thoughts from me.
Okay, thank you, Alan. Thank you, Charles. So we're drawing to a close. I want to say a few words in a moment in terms of just closure. But the one last thing we'd like you to do is it'd be nice to just capture a little bit of what went on, in our heads this evening. So you might want to think about this just for a few seconds. In the chat, in the chat box, could you think about answering this question? And that is, what are you going to do by Friday to start to bring your own values to life? So putting you on the spot, as a result of these conversations, what are you going to do pretty much in the next couple of days differently? If anything, you might say you're going to reflect on things, or there may be something that you've, during the course of the conversation that you thought, yes, I really should be doing something more or something different. And if you'd like to share that in that text stream, in the chat, just share it with the group. Then the good thing about Zoom is that I can capture that text, and I hopefully it won't be too much work. I can edit it out and just create a little document that captured the things that we're taking away. And if you need a little bit more time to do it, a little bit more time to think about it, then rather than type it in the chat box, just drop me an email, and I can cut and paste it in with the rest of the text. So yeah, does that make sense? But yeah, okay. So we're 10 minutes short of the hour. Is there anything else that anybody wants to share with the group as we wind up?
David,
yes.
Are you going to put this recording on your site?
Yes, I will. The interesting thing about Zoom is that you can only record what you're looking at. So I can't record the breakout
groups. No.
It's just this whole group conversation, and there's long periods of just me sitting looking at the screen or talking to the screen. So I might just load it up as it is as a raw video to start with, but then maybe come back and edit out the dead space, if you will. But I will share that with everybody, plus the text. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And this means it's public.
I suspect it's probably best not to make this public. If I put it, I'll put it up on YouTube, but put it up as unlisted, so only people who have the URL can access it. Yeah, does that make sense? And Emma, I think you wanted to say something. Yeah.
Hi, I just a thought listening to Ron talk about sharing their values. I kind of work with organisations trying to persuade them to make employment law decisions and manage people in accordance with their values. And I think it's all fundamentally comes back to communications. So I think if we're talking about sharing our values, if we could communicate how values have influenced a decision, I think that would help people to understand how important they are and also hopefully minimise confusion. So that's what I'm going to put up as my message. I'm going to think about how my values consciously affect a decision, and when that affects somebody else, communicate that, not assume they understand, because that will get everyone talking about it more.
I like that. Yeah, nice one. Okay. Any other final thoughts or comments? Okay. Well, I guess for me, just a few words. First of all, just a great big thank you, a big thank you to Charles and to Alan for kind of making this all possible. As I say, last year we did a real face-to-face cafe in London, and it just seemed too good an opportunity to try to do this online and bring in more people and make it a little bit more global, which I think we've done. I hope you agree. And those of you who've not experienced Zoom before, just realize just how effective it is. I mean, this has worked almost seamlessly. We've had no major problems at all. It's very close to doing it in person, doing it face to face. I say, unfortunately, I couldn't take part in the small breakout rooms, but there were usually one or two people who either dropped out or latecomers. So I wasn't always on my own. So I've had a few interesting conversations on my own with people, which seems to have worked well. So I guess we draw to a close there. A great big thank you to all of you.
And a big thank you to you, David, if I can sort of speak up on behalf of everyone else, if everyone's happy for me to do that. Thanks very much. I think it's great and well facilitated. I'm sorry you had to do all the fiddling around and trying to amp up the various things, like the strange mechanism that got us into different rooms at different times with people. But it was really good. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you very much, David. Very good. Thank you a lot.
Thanks all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good evening.
Yeah, don't forget about World Values Day, everyone.
Yeah.
I'm allowed that plug, aren't I? Just sort of, as everyone goes.
What date is it, Charles?
Thanks, Alan. 19th of October, everyone.
19th of October. Okay.
Bye, everyone. Thanks very much.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
I'm going to stay here to the end. Who really
Bye,
goes?
It was good, David. I think that was very interesting, actually, and hopefully enjoyed by everyone. I think it worked very well.
Well, that's it has worked. Yeah, but it worked.
I mean,
exactly
technically it worked, and worked as a values cafe. Sorry, as a knowledge cafe.
As a knowledge cafe, yeah, and I think some really interesting.
David, what I really like about it is the fact that generally a knowledge cafe, it's a physical location. So you very often have people just from the UK or people just from France or whatever. You have the mix of cultures and different locations that we have here today. And I think that is really, really great. And I'm very impressed by Zoom, in fact, which I've used for the first time with you.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
Can't wait to do it again.
Yeah.
No. Gonna do some more.
I must admit, it's been surprised at how well it worked, actually.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was a little bit nervous.
Meetings of 10 or 11 people, and never in a group of this size, and it's,
How many were we at maximum, David?
We got up to 45, which is well short of the 127 that registered. A teeny bit disappointed about that, but not at the same time not too surprised. I was expecting 60 or 70, but okay, that's.
It is what it is, and I thought it was good. I think that number was a perfect number.
Yeah.
Whatever it was perfect.
And that's why I was pushing to get a large number, because I knew there would be a large dropout, and I wanted to experiment with a larger number. So
I think the nature of the event means that people, they always have pressures at the last minute, and they can drop out in a way they wouldn't do if they were going to, not be showing their physical face.
That's right, indeed.
This way.
Yeah.
But it's good. I thought it was great.
It'd be interesting to do one where you've got about 100 people, but I think even with 100 it would work just fine.
Yeah, it would work. But tonight was just right. The numbers were just right.
Yeah, I think
what we were talking about. The thing that surprised me, I shouldn't have been surprised, how deep the conversations were in the breakout room. I was saying things to people that I possibly would not say to them face to face. But I think that experience of being somewhere with two other people was very helpful. And the conversation flowed at a possibly, David, even deeper level than it does when you're speaking to someone across a table in a room with other people at tables.
Yeah, I can see that. Because you are kind of pretty much focused. You don't have all the other noise and the other conversations going on around you and the distractions. You're there.
Yeah. It cuts out a little bit the social side as well, doesn't it? Which maybe is a bad thing. But,
it may be, but you're getting down to hard tacks, and the intimacy surprised me.
It's something to do with the quality of the picture. I mean, the technology is very good, isn't it? Apart from the occasional sound delays, it was really excellent.
Yeah.
Anyway, I must go, but thank you very much, everyone.
I haven't had dinner yet. I'm getting hungry.
And thank you, everyone. Yes, thank you.
I got mine waiting. Okay. Bye, everyone. Thanks a lot.
And Kelvin, good to see you here too. We'll catch up sometime. Okay.
Lovely. Bye.
So, say goodbye to everyone.